But if you don't feel worthy and valued and accepting of someone else's love, like people can pour into it or try to give it to you and you're going to reject it or throw it back. You're going to bounce it right back off.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to feel it within yourself.
Hey there, we are Helene and Christina, licensed mental health therapists with over 35 years of clinical experience. But out of the office, we are truly just women navigating life's blows and successes as wives, mothers, and more. In all of this, we noticed we were living, but not genuinely alive. We reached out to others and realized they were dealing with the same struggle. In this moment, we committed to helping others with their messy middle. You know, the part where you were juggling all of life's expectations, frantically trying to meet everyone's needs, and constantly feeling like you fall short.
In this podcast, we're not your therapist. We are your friends. We're here to help you open up the birthday present called life. The gift you were given, but maybe didn't fully receive. We're here to have the uncomfortable, often funny conversations that will lead you to discovering you. It's not a starting over, it's a starting in. You are not alone. We are here to throw a party every week where we celebrate you with the hard conversations that you want, the funny moments that we all need for healing, and so much more. So grab your party drink and come celebrate your everyday birthday with us as we work towards genuinely being alive. We promise you will leave our podcast with big thoughts and lots of gifts to becoming the best you.
Friends, this is a really fun episode because we are talking about the gift, the true honor that we get to love others. We may recognize it as a gift, so the questions become, and maybe different for each of us, what does loving others truly look like in a busy, complex world? That can be an or maybe it's a hell yeah. So, tuning in today shows us that you are curious and you care. So, let's dive in. Oh, Helene, I love this episode. And I think this is actually something that you are so good at. And when I share that, I mean, so one of my, okay, let me back up. Friends, if you aren't familiar, it's kind of socially known. Gary Chapman's 5 love languages, all of that good stuff. Go ahead, read it, do the quiz, whatever you need to do. Caveat, it does kind of have a Christian connotation, but it's been very mainstreamed. With that said, so Helene loves to give gifts. Helene is also phenomenal at remembering dates. Like she knows people's dates. She knows when people are doing things. She knows when people have major events in their lives. She remembers birthdays. Like she's so good at it. Truth, I'm pretty jealous because I'm not as good. But I'm going to share a sweet story. So I had an office in Fort Myers and our office kept getting like a major bug problem and bugs were like flying around patients and it was like really awkward. And our lease was up. We were still trying to negotiate a lease. And my office mate, Pat, and I decided like we can't, they weren't doing anything about the bugs. We have to go. So we abruptly had to move offices and we end up moving in the same building as Helene because she said her building was amazing. And we're moving in, we're getting situated like nonchalantly. And Helene's like, tell me what day you're going to be actually in the office. So I like tell her, thinking she's going to pop in and say hi, right? Oh no. In true Helene form, she comes with the most adorable basket filled with all sorts of favorite candy treats, salty treats, sweet treats, everything, some drinks, water, like just the most thoughtful thing to both Pat and myself, welcoming us to the building. It was like just so endearing. And she hands it to my receptionist, of course, like leaves like a little elf. And the second I get out of my session, Crystal pulled me aside and she was like, oh my gosh, who is Helene? And I was like, oh, just the most adorable, sweetest person ever. And she's like, look at this. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so Helene. Like, I wouldn't have thought of it. I would have like popped up to your office and been like, hey, welcome to the hood. And like walked out. No, Helene, truly, when she says go big or go home, she does. And that is how she loves too. Like you love big.
If you're my person, yes. And it was interesting because right before we got on here, little teaser, I'm actually coming to Minnesota. I have not flown alone in 25 years. So, on that day, I will like go on Instagram Live because I'm going to need all the love and the support. And when we talked about me coming up, like I said to my husband, Ryan, I'm like, okay, find me a flight, let's book it. And he's like, you're not thinking twice about this. This is so not you. And because I truly believe in what we're going to do, it's going to be so much fun and it's going to be awesome.
Oh my gosh, I can't
But
wait.
we got on here a couple of minutes before and we were talking about something. And I really just had to lean in. And if you're one of my people, like you get to know my heart. And I'm like, Christina, I just love you. Like there's a lot going on in my life right now. And I'm excited, but I'm tired, right? And I've made a couple of mistakes and things that I do for the It's Your Birthday. And I'm hard on myself about that. And Christina's like, I got it. Like, I'm going to fix it. And I trust that there's no judgment, that I can just tell her. And before we got on here, I'm like, I just love you. And
Oh,
you're right. If you're one of my people, I love you.
yeah.
And I don't let a lot of people in. And I don't need a lot of people. Like, I don't like a lot of attention. But when you're in my table, yeah. So, and you keep giving me gifts of like remembering those type of things to tell me. So thank you.
I always say I'm very tribal. Like if you become one of my people,
Mm-hmm.
I am your warrior. Like I will fight the world for you.
Yeah.
Interestingly, we just had marriage counseling and they were like, where did that come from? And I was like, oh, well, let me tell you. We won't out my family. Anyway, but it's true. And so like that's something we both have in common is,
Yeah.
and for the people that I genuinely love and care about, I do show a lot of grace because I need a lot of grace, right? Like literally last Friday, we were supposed to record a podcast with somebody pretty incredible. And I had to like literally say to you 2 days before, I'm so sorry. Life
Mhm.
is not going as planned in the best of ways, Surveyor One Nationals. And I said, I'm stuck being dance mom in a good way, like not in a bad way, not in a controlling way. I was thrilled to do it, but it also meant that I had asked for grace and rescheduling. And you were like, got you. I'll reach out to the person. You just focus on your daughter. And so I love that we can give each other that and not jump to assuming negative. Like, and I
Yeah.
think when you genuinely love people, you are confident in yourself.
Ooh,
It's not a, if you love people because you're wanting to get things back from them, if you see it as transactional,
right.
that's not love.
It's not genuine. It's conditional. There is an expectation there.
Right.
You love with the anticipation, with the vision, with the desire to get something back.
Yeah.
That's not love. That's conditional. And you're setting the other person up, I tell people, without them even knowing.
Yeah.
If you do something and
Mhm.
somewhere inside of you, you're hoping they show up and return and they don't, you've set them up and then set you up possibly to be disappointed, feel betrayed, feel unseen. Yeah.
Right. So I'll share an example. I was down in Florida over spring break. We had to clean out my parents' condo because my dad is now living in independent living. So now you kind of know what my storm has been the last few months. It was a big decision. It was a hard decision. With that said, going through my parents' things was very emotional, and I came upon a beautiful quilt my mom had made. And it was the exact colors of my little cousin who just got married in June, their wedding colors.
Mm.
And my go to thought was like, oh, this would be an amazing wedding gift or a shower gift for Noah and Kareen. And I had to sit with it because I said, your mom's quilts are like your ultimate treasures. Like they are my gold.
Mm.
And they're very sacred to me. They're very special to me. They're like my connection with my mom. Like they are very special. And I have not been able to give a quilt away.
Mm.
Like I probably need to read the Quilt of Many or the Quilt Maker's Gift, which
Mhm.
talks about giving things away. Anyway, so I sat with it and I thought, Christina, if you give a gift to someone you love, giving a gift means it is yours to do whatever you want with it. right? And
Yes.
same like when you love somebody and you give them something tangible, intangible, something like that, you were essentially saying, you can do whatever you want with it. So I said, that means if you get a picture and that quilt is being used as a blanket in a park,
Mhm.
with grass
Yeah.
stains all over it, you can't freak out.
Nope.
If you find that quilt being wrapped around a piece of furniture in a closet, you can't be pissed about it.
Right.
Like these are all the conversations I had to have in my head. And I said, can you accept that this quilt may get ruined? Like it's their quilt to do with what they want. And I let myself sit with it for a couple of days. And I finally came to the conclusion and I said, yes. And for me and myself, I prayed on it. And that's what I did. So then I texted their parents, well, his parents, and said, I'd really like to give this to Noah and Kareen. Do you think it's something they would like, or do you think it was something that they would be like, thanks for another piece of crap in my house? I
Mm.
also wanted to make sure that it was something that they would appreciate and I wasn't dishonoring who they are or what they like.
Yeah.
And instantly his mom came back and said, yes, please.
Mm.
So I gave it to him at the shower. And then I also pulled Kareen aside and said, hey, the quilt's not something that's you. I don't want you to feel that you have to take it because it was my mom's. Like,
Mhm.
if it's not you, it's okay. And she's
Yes.
like, I love it. It's amazing. It's an honor. I said, I found a ton of other fabrics. So if you want to make throw pillow, like whatever. So to genuinely love somebody is also letting them be who they are,
Yes. Yes.
which is really hard. And I think, especially as parents, I go back to when you were talking with your son and you guys were giving him advice on interviewing and following up and things like that. And he didn't want to take that advice.
Right.
Had to step back. And part of love is saying, I trust that you will figure it out.
Right.
I've given you the tools. You need to do it. And I think that's a parent love. I think we see a lot right now too in TikTok about family love. And if somebody has hurt you, like instantly cutting them off. Like boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Somebody doesn't respect my boundaries. They're gone. They're gone. They're gone. They're gone.
Which are
Right.
called rigid boundaries. And that's a cutoff connection if you're not familiar with what those are. Yes.
Yeah. So tell people more about that because I think there's a ton of social media on that right now.
So if you go back to the gift of boundaries in our, I don't even know what episode, we'll have Haley maybe like it.
Season 1.
Season 1, thank you. The gift of boundaries, that you could have like very healthy boundaries. You could have no boundaries. You could have rigid boundaries. So what Christina just shared with you is an example of a rigid boundary. Like it is black or white. There is no 50 shades of gray in between this one. So if they hurt me, I immediately cut them off, which means, social media language, I block them. I take them off Facebook. Like they just get no access to me. Now, it's a hurt. I mean, there's different levels of hurt. Like there are probably some hurt that absolutely for protection of your emotional and physical safety. Absolutely.
If it's been an abusive relationship,
Right. If it's abuse, absolutely. Fully support that.
if they're stalking you, fully
If
support
they're
that.
stalking, absolutely.
But general family relationships, because people are
Right.
human and humans make mistakes. And I think it goes back to our opening where you said, hey, I made a mistake and it's your birthday this week. And I said, hey, I made a mistake last week, and showing each other grace. Like that's love, knowing that somebody's intentions are good, they're pure, that 90% of their interactions with you are loving and kind, and 10% they screw up and are human. But it's never their intention to hurt you.
Right. It's like sometimes if I'll work like with an adult and they're working on perhaps that grief that they didn't have the parent or parents
Mm-hmm.
that they recognize now as an adult that they needed.
Right.
Right. Because it's grieving the loss of you as an adult that you recognize that you did not receive or get whatever you needed. And sometimes, I say this carefully, if people can come to the place of, my parents did the best they could with what they had, and it still sucked, or
Mhm.
it still didn't align with now what I know my 6-year-old, my 8-year-old, my 14-year-old self. Like it's having compassion for you and understanding the visibility of who they are. That is outside of a parent who was abusive, narcissistic, things like that. But if you can sit back, or if you've done the work and you're like, my parents or my grandmother or whoever did the best they could do with what they had, and it still sucked, or it still wasn't what I need, there's still compassion and visibility and recognizing of you. And it's also accepting where they are, which frees you of a lot. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of different kinds of accepting love. Christy and I have talked about, like, there's family love, there's unconditional love, there's community love. So when we talk about like loving others and it's a gift, it also doesn't have to have
Right.
a yes or a no. And you want to make sure that you're loving and then you're not people pleasing. So when you're people pleasing, sometimes you're abandoning a part of yourself,
Mhm.
or you're so anxious about something that
Mhm.
you overextend, you over deliver, you give a hell yes, but inside you're screaming a no. So that's not love either. That's taking care of you in doing something, right? You get a secondary kickback.
Taking care of the toxic part of you.
Right. You get a secondary kickback that's often intangible. I tell people with people pleasing, if you're anxious or uncomfortable, you overextend. You're like, "Ugh, okay, I feel okay." Like, let me think of a quick example. Like, I had a gentleman many, 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 many years ago. He had a sibling who was an adult that was struggling financially. So he would always pay the electric bill. But then he was in the office talking about his resentment and his anger and his shame at himself. And
Mhm.
but that wasn't love. It was he was so uncomfortable that he was in fear that the sibling, who was an adult, which is like enabling behavior, but he was people pleasing when the brother said, "Will you please do this? I need this." And he would say yes. That
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily love. It was people pleasing. And it wasn't a conditional love thing. And
No.
once he was able to do some work through that, he made some adjustments within that space.
No, it's true. And I think, or we always say yes at work because we feel a need to prove ourselves. Things like that are really unhealthy. Or the mom who always says yes to every PTO committee and every activity, or things like that. Or, how many moms do we talk about working mom guilt, right? Feeling
Right.
like we need to prove ourselves to our kids and we people please the hell out of our kids. Like maybe we buy them too much shit. Maybe we say yes to them doing too many activities. Maybe, we take them shopping too much. Things like that. That's not love. That is not love. And I think, it's interesting. As you probably all know, Helene does amazing outlines. And in her outline, she wrote, love is a verb. And it totally is. It's an action word. But I laugh because when I was in college, like I was very into Christian music. And if you're my age, you'll know, and you were really into Christian music, there was a band called DC Talk that had a song called Love is a Verb. And so when I read that, like the song started popping in my head. And all of a sudden I went to like, driving to see my best friends in Augustana across I-80. And I was like, oh, yeah, listen to that song on repeat. So just kind of laughing about that. But going back to this, it is a verb. And sometimes it is helping and caring for somebody when it isn't convenient for you. Sometimes. But if you find yourself doing a pattern of that, then it's people pleasing. You know,
Right.
like, for instance, love last night was my husband had a super busy day. I had a busy day too. And he forgot to pick up the Target order. And so I texted him when I was done because it popped up that it was still there. And I was like, huh. So I texted him. I was like, hey, did you get the Target order? He's like, no, I'll run and get it right now. I was like, on my way home, not a big deal.
Right.
That was a love moment. Like, it
Mm.
wasn't a huge inconvenience. Did I at 8:30 at night want to go home and just put on my pajamas, take a shower and call it over? 100%. Was 15 minutes driving out of my way a really big deal? No. And he had to get to bed early because he works very early. So a love moment, a
I
gift.
love that. Ooh, I love calling things. that when you're given the gift of loving others, explore when you're giving a true love moment. What a gift.
Yeah.
I love sending people on journeys or like scavenger hunts. So,
And
yeah,
I think we can love our community, by doing things for people in our community, honoring our community.
being a good citizen in your community,
Yeah.
loving your community.
The outpouring of love over the murders of Melissa and Mark Hortman here. It's been really incredible to watch our community, which at times has been very divided politically, especially urban versus rural.
Mhm.
And across all political lines, everybody says this is horrific. And let's love on these family. Let's love on the kids. And the children, Melissa and Mark Hortman's released a statement, and in there they talked about the love their parents had for their community, the love their parents had for their neighbors, the love their parents had for the people around them, just by encouraging,
Yeah.
cheering on, advocating for, and genuinely trying to make our state a better place, no matter political lines. And so I just think like that's a love for the community. That
And I
is a
think
beautiful thing.
it's beautiful. And I think it really ties into something that I think we want to hone in with our audience, say that why loving others is a gift. And that was such a beautiful testament of the power of connection that
Mm,
that can bring when
yeah.
you honor it within yourself and you give it to others.
Well, and I think when we get to love others, I always feel like at least for me, I get so much more back than I feel like I gave. That, you know, when we get to serve others, when we get to care for others, it is such a gift. I think I've talked about this in grieving that my mother-in-law allowed me to shower her, and the only other person she allowed to shower her was her husband in the end of her life. And here I was serving her, and the love I was receiving and being trusted was such a vulnerable place.
Mhm.
And it was difficult. It was emotional. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, tears were streaming down my cheeks that she couldn't see. And it is also one of the most special moments of my life, to
Yeah.
have that gift to be trusted to that level and be able to love on her was huge. And I think it's resilience. Like, love can hurt.
Oomph. Oomph. Love, oomph at times. Yeah, because you might want to give love and others may not be available to
Mhm.
receive it. And
Yeah.
it's going back to that's not about you. But when you wholeheartedly want to lean into giving love
Mm-hmm.
and either whatever an organization, a person just puts up a wall or a barrier, and that could feel like rejection or a halt in how you want to be in the relationship.
Or they're
It,
judgy of your love. Like they criticize it and say like it wasn't good enough or it isn't enough or you didn't
yeah.
do this, or you didn't do that or you did it this way, but I don't like that.
And it requires you to be vulnerable and to trust the process. Because if the other person also can tell you, I understand that you did this for me, and it's really not what I needed,
Right.
most of the time they are feeling trusting and secure within themselves and within the relationship. So while it could feel like an oomph, I want you to also allow yourself for the moment to be like, it can be a hell yeah, because if they didn't care enough about themselves, you and the relationship, they wouldn't take that moment to tell you that didn't land in how what they needed and invite you in what they do need. So it is an oomph and it could be a hell yeah.
You know, I, it prompted my mind that I think we've got to add for season 3
Yeah.
the gift of dating love because it's so different. And with the younger generations, it's so different. But I think, I go back to when Ethan and I were first dating and he like didn't really reach out to me for a week. And I was like hyper offended.
Yeah.
And then I learned like he had had a hell week, he'd been busy, like anyway, all of this. And
Yeah.
so I had an opportunity then to either accept it or be like, goodbye.
Yes.
And, the good of him I saw more than that. So, but sometimes a barrier is busyness. If somebody is always too busy for you and can't give you the quality time that you deserve,
Right.
then are they worth loving? Is this somebody that I want in my life who can never be available to me? And it's interesting too. I've been doing a lot of conversations with partners and spouses of medical doctors.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I always say it takes a very special person to be able to tolerate the absence of somebody who travels a lot for work or a medical doctor who's like in the hospital system, right? They're there
Yes.
5 a.m., they're there till 10 p.m., like their schedule is always evolving. And, you've got to decide, are you capable of honoring that type of a lifestyle with your partner?
Right.
And no is an okay answer. I mean, hopefully you come to that before you've been married for 30 years. But, that is a huge, huge thing. And I think too, like another barrier, as we talked about in the beginning, is self worth. You have got to believe in yourself and love yourself before you can genuinely love others.
Right. And we don't mean that in like a Hallmark card space, but it's exactly like what Christina said. If you see worthiness and value in you loving, you can receive it. If not, if you don't feel that you're worthy, and worthiness, I know comes up so much in both Christina and my practices, especially it's one of the top things that come up with EMDR. Like people want to work on feeling worthy. But if you don't feel worthy and valued and accepting of someone else's love, like people are going to pour into it or try to give it to you, and you're going to reject it or throw it back. You're going to bounce it right back off.
Mhm.
So you have to feel it within yourself in order to receive it from the other person. So it goes back to starting with you, which is why we've done episodes on dating yourself, creating space, and being your own best friend. That if you don't love yourself, you might not accept it, and you might be so afraid of it, you reject it. So yeah, that's a huge barrier, Christine. I'm glad you said that one.
Well, and sometimes people come to this episode thinking that this episode is going to help them with people that they've chosen to withhold love from.
Ooh, talk a moment about that.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking of like maybe you've had to set those rigid boundaries with somebody because they've been abusive. And so now you're questioning yourself, like, oh, have I been too hard? Or am I, you know, should I let go? And here's what I would say: sit with it. Don't leave this episode and impulsively text them or call them or things like that. If you have decided to withhold love from someone, sit with it, permeate with it as to why. What happened? That's
Right.
what I would say. What happened? And if your answer is, you know what, it really wasn't that big of a deal, then
Mm,
maybe you do go back to asking forgiveness from others.
right. It can simply be something like, I want to let you know, I recognize in the last couple of weeks, I've not been as present in our relationship, and I want to like let you know I've been thinking about this one incident, and now I'm ready to talk about it and accept that you have been reaching out. Like it's having the conversation at
And then
the
I think too, like, or maybe as you sit with it, you're going, this, this,
Mm,
this. And they're all really big things that are hurtful for who you are. Then your answer is you're withholding love for the right reasons.
mm,
That's what I would say.
yeah.
So don't just automatically jump off this episode and go, yep, I'm in the wrong. My challenge to you is sit and think about it. You might be, but you
Mhm.
may not be. So don't hop off and try to fix a problem unless it's something that you really need to fix and you've been thinking deeply, and this is kind of the icing on the cake. Um, and I think the gifts in this episode is, how do we practice loving others?
Ooh, and that could be different for everyone. It is not a one shop stop. How do we practice? Well, it goes back to that gift that you gave about 20 minutes ago. What can be a love moment? And it is a choice to do it. Like when Ethan said, oof, you're right, I didn't pick up the Target order. And you said to yourself, hey, it's 8:30 at night and I want to get on my jammies. But what I can do is just drive 15 minutes late and choose to have a love moment and say, I got it, babe. No worries.
Yeah. I think another big one that men especially struggle with is listening without trying to fix it
Yes.
or justify it. Like, just listen. Listen.
Right.
You know, one thing I've gotten better at in our marriage is saying, is this a moment you want me to listen or is this a moment that you want me to give wisdom?
I love that. Ask the person what they want from you because then you know what they want.
Mhm. Yeah.
Say that again. I think that's a really helpful line that you could say
Is
either a
this
partner or girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this a moment you want me to listen or is this a moment that you're asking for my wisdom?
That could also be a beautiful gift if you have adult children
Mhm.
and they,
100%.
yes.
Yes. And I think that goes back to gifts too. Like if you are giving your adult children gifts, it is theirs to do with. Like it's not a conditional gift.
Right. So
It's
if you
not.
give advice or feedback, you can give it. It's the memo passing. They then choose what they want, if anything, to do with it.
And we're cautioning you to ask them if they even want you to give it.
Absolutely. That's a way of loving others. Loving others is asking them also, what do you need from me? And then you choosing,
If you're able
loving
to give it.
yourself, can I do it?
Yeah. I think acts of service is huge, doing things for people. I love doing things for people. I love caring for people. That's one of the ways I do it. Words of affirmation, positive praise is huge. But we've got to be careful with kids with positive praise that we're not constantly praising them. Rather, we're teaching them intrinsically to realize their own strength. So I will say, like, what are you proud of yourself today? Or what did you feel like you did well in that moment? And not that I can't come up with anything, I can think of a million things, but I want my children to self reflect and realize what their abilities are. And that's one of the ways I love my children is what do you do well? Like, what do you see as your strengths? And on the flip side, like, when things didn't go as planned, I'm like, what do you think you would have done differently? Like, how would you have handled that? Instead of saying to them, this is where you went wrong, this is what you did wrong, I will encourage their self reflection because I want them to learn.
And what
And
I love about that is that you're talking with, not at, and you're inviting them to go inward and to explore themselves, which is a huge gift of helping them build their self-esteem, their confidence, and their knowing.
we can love by forgiving.
Mhm.
We can love by,
Gift of loving others is by forgiving them.
yeah. And that's probably a really hard one.
Yeah.
I just last night was interviewing a parent who was extremely hurt by some of the choices their co parent made. And I said to this parent, I said, continuing to harbor this is
Mhm.
going to hurt your relationship with your child. It's going to come out in your relationship with your child because your child's going to see how you're treating your co parent. Your child's going to see how you behave when that co parent's in the same room. And I'm not saying that you have to let that person in and not have boundaries with them.
Right.
You do need to forgive them because I can see that you love your child immensely.
Right. So sometimes loving your person, right? Maybe it's your partner, sometimes it's your child. It's
Expert.
sometimes doing things that may not be your hell yeah, and not like abandoning something that feels really icky or wrong or unhealthy. But sometimes loving others is allowing yourself to do things because they want you or need you to do it. And it aligns okay with you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh, lots of gifts.
I know.
Loving
It's a
others.
fun episode.
It's a simple title, but I hope it really leaves our audience looking for those moments of love and how they do it because it really shapes you as a person and you get curious and then how you do it in your relationships? And are you doing it how they want to be loved? So as I'm talking, it just gets bigger and bigger. Okay.
Yeah. Helene, do you want to give our audience a weekly challenge on this one? I think it would be fun to do.
We challenge, let me think. Well, I go back to your beautiful friend, Sarah. So I'm going to channel in some Sarah. And Sarah was really beautiful really quickly. Her beautiful life was cut short. She was tragically killed by a drunk driver. But she was beautiful at reaching out to people and just letting them know exactly how she felt about them. So allow sprinkles of Christina, I, and Sarah into your life. That if there is someone perhaps that you have overlooked, or that text message that you didn't send, or that phone call that you know you needed to make, but life just got busy, allow yourself in this next week to reach out and express how you feel to that person who you know you've been wanting to.
Yeah. Just, a little moment to say, I love you, or I'm thinking of you, or out of the blue, our conversation today, and Helene just goes, I love you. And that means the world to me. Like, that picked my day up. I
Yeah.
love that. So, friends, thank you for joining us on this beautiful journey and very important conversation. Loving others is an important part of communication, and it can be hard and at times really uncomfortable. If this episode resonated with you, we would love if you would leave a review wherever you listen. And you know what? Forward it on to somebody else who needs it. Sharing is caring. We learned that in the 80s. Hang out with us on social media. You can find us on Insta, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and probably more that I'm not coming up with during the week. And remember, on Mondays, we have the gift from the couch. Until next week, happy birthday, friends.